Hey everyone, Dr. Alex Ritza here, downtown Toronto, neurostructural chiropractor, and we are live with Lunch and Learn TV again. And today we're going to be talking about the shoulder and why most rotator cuff tears, I could care less about when I'm taking care of practice members, how to strengthen the rotator cuff, and a little bit of know-how so that you can keep it safe. And if you have an injury, how you can deal with it. So, why would I say something so outrageous as I don't care if somebody has a rotator cuff? Well, I care, but sometimes the rotator cuff tear or the rotator cuff injury or the rotator cuff degeneration is not actually a tremendous problem. So when we look at the research, we know that a large percentage of the population will have a rotator cuff tear by the age of 40. And then after 40, the odds of it being torn or being irritated go up and up and up. It seems like the rotator cuff is an area where it is very prone to injury or degeneration or tendinopathy, but it doesn't necessarily bring on pain. It doesn't necessarily bring on problems or functional concerns. And the rotator cuff tear that you see on your ultrasound or your MRI might actually not be the real problem. And we've talked about this before with disc injuries. If somebody has a disc tear or disc herniation or disc bulge, they often can be asymptomatic. So let's take a step back. If anybody doesn't know what the rotator cuff is, that's okay. The rotator cuff is 4 muscles that insert onto the humerus like this, and their job is not so much to move the arm, but to suction cup that humeral head or suction cup the arm into the glenoid fossa or into the shoulder blade to keep it stable. So when you move your arm up overhead, most of the movement's actually going to come from the levator scapulae or the deltoids, but those 4 rotator cuff muscles, they're going to engage, they're going to suck that arm in and keep it in a nice stable position. Yes, they will contribute a little bit of movement, but the rotator cuff's main job is to hold the humeral head or hold the arm bone in place so that it doesn't bonk upwards into the shoulder blade or cause any such problems like that. So when you think rotator cuff, it doesn't need a big, powerful motion to strengthen it. Quite the opposite usually. It needs something usually quite lower weight, nice and stable, and it's all about good form. And so sometimes when somebody has a tear in the rotator cuff, because there is a redundancy system, there are, again, 4 of those muscles. If one's torn or a little bit torn, the other rotator cuff muscles can take up the slack and they can do some of the heavy lifting per se to make sure that that arm stays stable in its socket. So when you think of rotator cuff, think of stable in the socket. Now, we've unfortunately seen a few practice members that have come in with shoulder issues, and we've worked to correct the problems with their spine, their nervous system, and their shoulder as best we can. And if somebody has an acute rotator cuff tear, it is very, very hard to manage. It's very, very painful. If the pain is coming from the actual tear, it's usually very, very difficult to manage, and usually rest and some physiotherapy and some basic rehab are what is necessary until they're able to go through our neurostructural restoration process. So acute rotator cuff tears, I'm probably not your person to take care of. I can recommend a lot of different traditional chiropractors or physiotherapists, but if it's an old rotator cuff problem that also might have a core problem with spine and nervous system, I'm your guy. So what I want to do today is I want to go over 5 exercises, 5 drills that you can use to help strengthen your rotator cuff, 5 drills that you can use to rehab your rotator cuff, and 5 drills that you can use to generally target it. So these exercises are not the most exciting, like most rehab ones aren't. They don't require a lot of heavy lifting, but they are kind of like cleaning your teeth. They are going to be really, really important to maintain the health of your shoulder. So if somebody has a rotator cuff problem, I would do these every single day. If you are a baseball pitcher, like one of our practice members, Chris, I would probably do these a couple times a week. And if you had shoulder problems in the past, I don't think this is an everyday type of thing. I think it's a once in a while, once or twice a week between sets at the gym. But I hope this is going to act as a really great resource that you can use at home. So all of these activities, we're just going to use the TheraBand or resistance band. You can use weights as long as it's slow and easy and a nice stable motion. So the first one we're going to do is to target the subscapularis muscle. That's one that sits on the inside of the shoulder blade. And for this, what we're going to do, let's see if I can get this. Nope. Okay, so we've got our TheraBand here, and the subscapularis is going to be activated when we bring our hand behind our back. So for this one, we have a little bit of resistance here, and then we just bring the arm behind the back like this. So from a different angle, arm is outstretched, and then nice and slow motion, only movement through the arm here, nothing too much through the shoulder blade. Arm comes behind my back and back out, and behind my back and back out. And you'll notice that the palm is open that way, or at least facing that way, holding the resistance band. Good. Again, from this angle, back like this, and from this angle, back like that. So if you have an acute problem with your rotator cuff or an acute tear, you might actually find this a little bit painful. Don't do it if it's painful, but it's a very good exercise to strengthen the subscapularis. Okay, our next drill that we're going to do is one that actually most people have probably seen in the gym, and it's to work on the infraspinatus and the teres minor, which make up the back of the rotator cuff, like this. And this one's pretty simple. You keep your elbow sucked into your chest or to the side of your abdomen. Some people might even put, say, a pillow or an arm or a towel rolled up there to make sure you maintain that pressure pushing this way, which will help engage the rotator cuff, keeping that arm in the socket. And this one's quite simple. It's a simple external rotation motion where we're bringing the resistance band flat away from the body, maintaining that pressure between the elbow and the chest, and just rotating back and forth nice and easy. Without the pillow, you can see, again, you see the resistance band moving away from the door, and then we'll try from a different angle here, just like this. Again, if it's a little bit tighter and you can bring the arm into the center of the body, that's also acceptable. Good. And you can see again, nothing moves except for what's happening in the actual glenohumeral joint or the shoulder. There's no twisting through the body. This one you can do with weights, holding a weight like this. I like the resistance band better because it's going to add tension throughout the entire range of motion. Now, another one that we can do to strengthen the supraspinatus and some of the other rotator cuff muscles, because they're all going to be active with these drills, just this one might target that supraspinatus a little bit more. So with this one, what we're going to do, it's called the empty to full can. And so empty can, because we're going to have the hand turned over, like we're, say, emptying out a beer on St. Patrick's Day. And what we do is we have can turned over, and you can do this with weights or a resistance band. So we have can is empty, and then we're going to bring the can up here to about 45 degrees. And then what we're going to do is rotate. So the can is now full, and then we're going to bring it up the rest of the way. So I'll take a step back so we get a little bit more in the picture. So we have our can, it is empty, it comes up, switch, and then up a little bit higher. Now, you might also see this done in the handout that I've attached here, switch, and then up with a little bit of a bend. This is also an acceptable way. And you just notice that the difference between the two is a straight arm versus an arm like this. So this is going to add a little bit of a rotation component. So as the humerus of the arm bone's moving, you have the arm rotating in its socket, and then different parts of the rotator cuff are going to be activated. So one that's a little bit simpler that you can do, that you might want to do even before the last one we demonstrated, is just a simple full can activity. So this is where we have our beer can or a Coke can, and we're going to lift it straight up in that full can position. Now with this one, what I recommend and what the PDF recommends that we've attached is that you do one of the exercises lifting straight up here, keeping the shoulder blade back and down. You do another one at about 45 degrees, and then another one out at about 70 degrees. And that's going to target the rotator cuff at different angles. So let's do that from a different perspective here. So again, we have our can that is full, and we lift it up. You'll notice that core stays nice and stacked up, and the spine's nice and stacked, core is engaged, and we can do this drill at those 3 different angles. And then the last one that I was going to demonstrate today, guys, to strengthen that rotator cuff, really, really simple. Gotta be honest, it's not one that I've seen done in a while, but it's going to be good for building stability through the rotator cuff. What we do is the hand comes up, and you'll notice that if I step from this position, the arm is not back like this, it's a little bit forward, and all we do here is we're going to work on rotating the hand. Now this one I think is a little bit better with a weight in your hand, but if you do wrap the TheraBand around your hand a few times like I have here, it will add enough resistance so that this drill is challenging. Now with this one, again, you'll notice that core is nicely engaged, chest and, the spine is totally stacked up, and that alternating internal and external rotation movement will activate the rotator cuff to a small extent. Excuse me. So if you look online on our Facebook page with the live Lunch and Learn, you will see that we've attached a PDF document. It's available for free on the internet. It has a total of 12 different exercises that you can use to strengthen the rotator cuff. And I really do encourage you that if you've had a rotator cuff problem in the past, please use these drills, or please share them with a friend, acquaintance, a loved one that's had rotator cuff problems in the past, because working on this before it becomes another significant problem can make a big difference in somebody's life and can allow them to continue to enjoy being active and not being bothered by just reaching up into the cookie drawer, as they say. And that if you have a rotator cuff problem or a shoulder problem, please keep in mind that as per our last few Lunch and Learns that we've done this month talking about the shoulder, often there is a component involved with the spine, with the nervous system, with the mid-back. Those are 3 really, really important parts that need to be addressed if you want to actually correct the core problem that is contributing to your shoulder issue. I cannot stress that enough. If you have a shoulder problem, you have to look at the nerves of the neck. You have to look at how the mid-back is shaped and how it is functioning and how mobile it is. And you also have to look at the neck and the muscles that attach to the shoulder. So I hope, as always, you guys found that valuable, that there's some good content in there to help you move a little bit better. It is part of our effort to ensure that we give all the necessary strategies to be healthy: movement, healing, nutrition, and of course, what we do in the office, a solid, perfect brain-body connection. That's all I've got for you guys today. If you have any questions, please send me a direct message. Please leave a comment on Facebook. I would love to answer any questions as best I can. And I hope everyone enjoys this beautiful sunny day in Toronto. And if you are outside of Toronto, I hope your day is going great. Bye, guys.